Hi there. Today we're looking at my 3 favorite watches from Lange Söhne. There's the Lange one, of course, I would say, and there's the Datograph, which remains to be one of the most desirable hand-wound chronographs that has ever been created. And last but not least, the Odysseus, which is Lange's take on the sports watch. Why these 3 watches? I'll try to explain my choices. But first, Lange Söhne has an impressive history. It was originally founded in 1845 and it was relaunched after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The new company was founded in 1990 and the goal was to put Germany back on the map of high-end watchmaking. 4 years later, in 1994, the first 4 watches were already presented. But if you want to know more about Lange Söhne, check out the Monochrome website or the video about the Lange one that we did last year. So let's take a first look at the Lange one. It actually has a rather peculiar face. There's the large date, or the outside date as Lange names it. There's a power reserve indication, a small second subdial and the hour and minute subdial. So not the hours and minutes centrally positioned as usually is happening. The idea was that none of the indications should overlap one another to improve legibility. To me, it simply looks very good. And although the Lange one is only 20 years old, I do consider it already a classic, because it's so recognizable, because it's so beautiful, and because it's the cornerstone of an entire Lange one family of models. Or maybe as the brand CEO Wilhelm Schmidt recently said, the Lange one was never in fashion, but it's also never out of fashion. And that's actually right, it is a classic. My favorite of all Lange one models is probably the version that collectors lovingly call the Stealth. This is the platinum version, and personally I prefer the 38.5mm size. This size works so well and looks so classy. The Stealth comes with a striking monochromatic silver dial, and to me this is a discreet luxury. Luxury that flies under the radar, and that's something that I really like a lot. Just a look at how this greyish silver dial and how the rhodium-plated hour markers and hands contrast beautifully, clearly, and so subtle. When we turn the watch around, we can see its movement. The plates are crafted in German silver, and this will slowly gain patina over time. The large 3/4 plate is a typical glashütte style, and this plate is adorned with so-called glashütte ribbing, the German version of the Geneva stripes. And there's more. Blued screws, gold chaton, hand-engraved balance cock, and everything is finished by hand. The movement is powered by 2 mainspring barrels, resulting in a pleasant 72 hours of autonomy when it's fully wound. Altogether, the Lange one, whether you go for yellow gold, red gold, white gold or platinum, is so unique, different without making a fuss about it. It's really a discreet sort of quirky dress watch. Its size, the finishing of the case, the dial, the hands, the markers and that lovely movement, it all adds to the feeling that you're wearing a really, really special watch. Next is another classic, which to me is as iconic as the Lange one. I'm talking about the highly acclaimed Datograph. That movement, let's be honest, that is what every watch enthusiast will love about this watch. A movement that looks like a city from above, like a cityscape or something, but now made of plates, bridges, pinions, wheels, springs and screws, and boy, it really looks good. Now think of it this way. The Datograph was introduced in 1999. At that time, there were simply not many in-house movements, let alone in-house chronograph movements. So when the Datograph was introduced, it caused quite some heads to turn. None other than the illustrious watchmaker Philippe Dufour bought one and says that the Datograph has the best serially produced chronograph movement. The Dato, as it is lovingly called by collectors, features a flyback chronograph and outside date. Fun fact is actually that the recognizable positioning of the subcounters was a design idea at first, and later the technical design followed. One way or another, the Datograph movement is still a benchmark when it comes to chronographs. Personally, I prefer the Datograph Up-Down, which is the updated version that was introduced in 2012. And that's also the one that you see in this video. Compared to the older Datograph, the new Dato Up-Down offers a longer power reserve, which is now 60 hours compared to 36 hours for the previous version. Another improvement is that, although it grew in size, it wears more comfortable on the wrist. To me, it feels more balanced. The Dato is pretty heavy and this platinum version weighs 150 grams, but as said, it's pleasantly balanced on the wrist and therefore quite comfortable. As with the Lange one, it's not a watch that attracts wrong attention. And although it's a hefty price tag, I'd say you can easily wear it without the effect that you get with some of the high-profile watches. Again, discreet luxury. Last but not least is the Odysseus. I remember being in Glaashout a few days before the introduction of this watch when Anthony de Haas and Wilhelm Schmidt introduced it to me. I was quiet for a minute or so, and then I said, I love it. Somehow I was expecting a German clone of the Royal Oak or the Nautilus, so it took me a minute or so to adjust my expectations. The Odysseus doesn't look anything like these two, it really stands on its own. It's not the luxury sports watch that I was expecting. It is a Lange that you can wear in the shower, in the swimming pool or in the sea. This is the most all-round Lange watch in the entire collection since ever, and that's a good thing. I mean, for people who love Lange Söhne, there's now finally one that you can wear with a little bit less caution. Yes, it's made in steel and it features a new movement with automatic winding and it ticks at 4 Hz, which is far better for a sports watch than a movement with a lower amplitude. The dial offers the same German drama as its side work. It's very balanced. 2 big apertures on either side, an off-center small second sub-dial at 6 o'clock. Well, this watch is so Lange, there's no denying its heritage. Case, bracelet, movement and finishing are all on par what we've come to expect from Lange Söhne. This is your everyday, no worries Lange Söhne watch. And again, not attracting any wrong attention. So you get that very private enjoyment of a really nice watch. So these are my 3 favorites. Let me know your choices in the comments below. Catch you for the next video.